interview is being taped at the home of Alice Covell by Joan Walsh on Wednesday, July 2nd, 1997. Now, my first question is to begin at the beginning, Alice, and ask you where you were born.
Colebrook, New Hampshire.
And the date?
October 25th, 1911.
1911. And were you born at home?
No, at Dr. Natick's Hospital, which is over on Pleasant Street, where Gene Johnson owns the place now.
Oh, he does. Now, is that N-A-D-I-G, Natick?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Natick.
Did he deliver you?
I think so.
And there was no midwife present or anything like that?
No, it was a hospital.
It was a regular hospital.
So there must have been a nurse. I don't
Yeah.
don't know.
You weren't around long enough at that time to realize it, yeah. And can you tell us who your parents were, their names? Your mother?
Rose. James.
James was the last name. And your father?
Simeon Covell.
Simeon Covell.
S-I-N-E-O.
Covell. Now, your maiden name was Covell. Then your married name was Covell. Okay. Now, when your maiden name was, at that time, was C-O-V-I-L-L.
That's the way I was recorded as being born, C-O-V-I-L-L.
Mm-hmm. And you changed it later on after you were married then?
No.
Before you married. So when you married, then it was Alice Covell.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. I never realized it. What did your father do? I assume that your mother stayed home. What was your father's?
She did, but she also did, I guess you'd call it traveling like I was.
Mm-hmm. And your father?
Well, he used to drive, I don't know what they'd call it. I never knew a whole lot about him because he died when I was before 3 years old.
Oh, yeah.
My sister's only about a month old.
Mm-hmm.
He drove team. That wouldn't be called team at that time. What did they call it? Well, anyway, he drove team for the doctors to go round and to them.
Oh, that's interesting. Just a second.
I never heard my mother say.
But he didn't farm then?
I don't think so.
No. Could you speak just a little louder? Because I'm afraid my voice will drown out yours. Now, your siblings. Just one sister? And what was her name? What is her name, I should say?
It was Viola.
Her name is?
Viola.
This is the sister that moved to Texas eventually?
Yeah,
Did she die?
Yeah.
She did die.
She died 11 years ago last February.
Oh, mm-hmm. Now, how long did you live in Colebrook? You said you lived in Colebrook for a while, and then the family moved?
I probably was 2.5 years old because it was before my sister was born.
Mm-hmm.
This air is choking me this morning.
Is it really? You want to close the...
That might help.
Why don't you? Because there's a lot of pollen.
It must be what's doing it because my throat dropped off.
Yeah, oh, that's so fun. If you have problems, I can come back some other time.
No, this will be all right. This will be right.
Yeah, just talk louder for me, though. If you can raise your voice a little bit more. How old were you when the family moved to Pittsburgh? Do you remember?
Around 3 years old.
Mm-hmm. Around 3. And did you move to a farm up there?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And then what sort of a farm?
Well, they just farm for themselves, I guess.
Just farm for your own...
We stayed there. See, back when my mother was left single. They didn't give state aid like they do today. You either went to the county farm, they called it, or you went out and took care of your own. So
she was a widow when you moved up there.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a farm that you moved to a farmhouse in Pittsburgh, and you probably grew your own food that you needed yourself, and that was it. And she still went out to work.
Well, she worked for them. She went to work for a man and his mother and father. The mother died I don't know how long, but not long after we were there. And we stayed on for about 6 years. Then my mother remarried.
Your mother remarried. Who did she marry the second time?
Arthur Ransom.
Arthur Ransom. Were there any children by that second marriage? No children. Yeah. And then you continued. Did you live in the same place in Pittsburgh?
No. We lived at what they called Happy Corner.
Yeah, I know where you mean. Yeah.
The house now, you could push it over, but it's still there. It seemed like you could push it over when we lived there.
Yeah, but it's still there.
Yeah, it was last fall.
Yeah. And then when you went to school, there's another couple of things I wanted to ask you. When you grew up in Pittsburgh, how did you get around? Did the family have a car of any kind? No, I knew you were going to say that. Did you have a team of horses? Is that the way you did it?
At first.
There
was a team of horses. And then when my mother remarried, we had just one horse and a wagon.
And a wagon. And that's how you get to town. And did you get down to Colebrook very often?
No.
Probably not. Yeah.
No, after we moved from, my mother and stepdad moved from Pittsburgh to Canaan, we got to Colebrook quite often because it was only about 8 miles.
So how old were you when you lived in Canaan? You were going to school at the time.
We moved there the fall. I was 12 years old, so that would have been 25.
So you went part of the time to school in Pittsburgh when you first started.
When I first started. Way up Happy Corner.
Happy Corner, yeah. And then you moved to Canaan, and did you finish up in Canaan?
Yeah. But in the meantime, I went to school at the Piper School up here. You know, where you go up on Piper Hill?
Yeah.
The
school there, yeah.
I went 1 year there. Then I went 1 year down in Leamington on Jim's Hill.
That's before you went to Canaan?
No, I went to Canaan when I was a 5th grader. And the next year I was on Jim's Hill, which is in Leamington. And the next year I went to Piper School in Colebrook.
How old were you then?
14.
14. So you're getting up close to high school. Where did you go to high school?
I went 1 year in Canaan.
So 1 year in Canaan to high school.
I went to 8th grade and 9th grade in Canaan.
And that was it. That was it. Boy, another question I meant to ask you, and I skipped. I don't have to skip around too much, but in these houses that you lived in Pittsburgh and then in Leamington and then in Canaan, did you have any modern facilities? I mean, did you have indoor plumbing, or it was a chick sale in the backyard? Yeah.
Just one place in Pittsburgh. One winter we had indoor plumbing.
Indoor plumbing, yeah. How about electricity?
That was the only place we had electricity.
The other places you had lamps, kerosene lamps.
Scrubbed on the scrub board.
Yeah.
Heated the water on top of the stove.
Then did you have the Saturday night baths?
Saturday night baths in the middle of the floor. That is in the
kitchen.
And sometimes Wednesday night.
Yeah. In the summertime, maybe. Yeah. Gee, that was really something. Then in the meantime, you just washed up. Yeah.
Yeah, my mother could actually, she washed it.
Is there anything else that you remember about those early days, growing up as a child? Were they happy times for you?
Not really.
Not very? Because you were poor? I don't want to get too personal.
No, that was part of it. As I say, we didn't know the difference when depression came, because it always been depression in our house. We never went hungry, but we didn't. And we didn't see the other kids much, so we didn't envy the others.
Because you didn't know what they had.
No,
yes.
Only when we went to school. I always dreaded the first day of school, because most people had a new dress. Probably I didn't.
Yeah. But that was good in a way, wasn't it?
Of course it was.
You didn't have a chance to feel sorry for yourself, because it was just you.
No. That's why I think when my husband died, I didn't think of having all this help, because, well, I didn't feel sorry for myself. I'd never had much pity.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it's making more or less independent.
Oh, yes. I think that's a very good thing. A very good thing. Now, when your mother remarried, how long had she been a widow before she remarried?
Just before my sister. When my sister was well, I was almost 9 years old when she remarried.
When she remarried, yes. Was it a happy situation for you? Did you like your stepfather?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
He was very good to us.
That's good, yeah. That's good.
We didn't have a lot. We always had enough to eat and a place to stay, which wasn't the best. He was kind to us.
Oh, that's one of the big things. Yeah, that's one of the big things. No two ways about it. Now, you left school after the 9th grade. What did you do after that? You were in Canaan.
No, I came down here.
You came down here, but I mean, you left school from Canaan, came down to Colebrook. What were your first jobs? Or did you get married right away?
I worked for my mother-in-law. I worked for my husband's mother-in-law.
In doing housework in the house. Yeah. Then what did you do? Then you got married. When did you get married? Do you remember the year? Can you tell me the year that you were married?
1936. June 30th, 1936.
And had your husband been married before? Were there any children by that marriage? No children at all.
2 wives died. I think one died from, I never knew them.
Yeah.
TB and one from cancer. Then he married again, and that was a divorce.
So that he was married 3 times. You were his 4th wife. Wow, you have got a lot of courage.
More courage than I got now.
Oh, good for you. Gee, that's nice. Was he much older than you, Alice?
16.
16 years, yeah.
Which is too much. I wouldn't advise it, but we got along well.
Yeah. What did he do for a living? What was his occupation?
Oh, odd jobs. The last of it was taxi. Had his own taxi business, but before that he'd been on his father's farm. I guess did odd jobs, between the time his father died. He started the taxi. Yeah.
Had he been in the First World War then?
No, I guess the way I understood it, he would have been in the next draft. The war stopped.
And then the war ended. Then you had Aaron. When was Aaron born? 35. Was he? Did he get into the war at all? Was he in the Korean War?
No.
Aaron, no, he was not in service at all.
He was in the service.
Yeah.
But not in any war. He was an enlisted. He was in from 57 to 58. I know he went in 57.
Now, tell me again, just so we get it recorded. After your husband died, when your husband died, how old was Aaron?
10 years.
10 years old. And tell us here now for the record, what Casey Dixon and Mrs. Tibbetts said.
Well, Mrs. Casey thought the Tibbettses knew me better than she did, so she went or called them or something, got in contact with them, and wanted to talk to me. So they told me what it was about, so I went down and talked to her. So she lived up the street.
Where Jan Colas is now, yeah.
And she wanted to help me to get state aid. And, well, I didn't think I not wanted it. In fact, my husband had talked to me a few days before about it. But I didn't tell him that I had anything. Well, anyhow, she wanted me to help me to get it. And I said, no, you wait a while. And she said, well, well, she saw I was a little emotional about it.
Yeah.
And she said, well, it wasn't charity. It was something that they did and wanted mothers to be at home. look at it today, the mothers get it. They're still
not. True. But now, if you got that, would you have had to stay at home? Could you have worked some?
I don't know.
With a limit maybe on the amount that you could earn?
I don't know that, but she told me I would have to, if you had any money, which I didn't. Well, I didn't. I had $138.
That's all you had when he died?
All I could put my hands on. I had a house up there that was partly paid for, and one over here was partly paid for.
Yeah.
But I went to, go back to Casey. She said it would take 3 months to get it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it was 4 people to keep the mothers at home.
Mm-hmm.
Anyhow, I didn't decide to do it.
Mm-hmm. You decided to take on a couple of extra jobs instead. Now, when your husband died, where were you living? Were you living then in the house that's now the rectory, the Catholic rectory? Uh-huh. And then later on, did you move up to Cooper Hill? I see.
10 years later. Almost 10 years later.
Yeah.
Yeah, he died in 45, and I went up there in 60. I went up there in 53.
So you sold this house here and then moved up on the hill. Who did you sell this house to? That's an interesting story. I don't know whether you want to put it all on tape or not, but some of it.
No, because I don't know the facts, but I have heard.
Yeah.
Well, Trackley Hebert bought it from me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And they wanted it for a church rectory because was the church up at the time? No, they wanted the property. Yeah. And of course it worked out very well. They had the rectory right next door to the church.
But you didn't tell me. We won't put that.
No, unless you want to. Yeah. But he bought it from you.
He bought it
from you. But he probably had other plans for it.
He certainly did.
Yeah. Then let's see. And this was all after your husband died, wasn't it? Yeah. And then you moved up on the hill. Bought the house up. What house was that?
Albert Reset house.
Is it still there?
No.
They
burned it down, took it down or something.
Yeah. Albert Reset house. Yeah. Tell me now, when we talked about the Depression, we're talking about, 1930 to really the beginning of the Second World War, almost to 37 when we got involved in munitions and things like that. How did you get through the Depression? Now, your husband was still alive at that time. You didn't have to work outside the home at that time? I didn't. Yeah.
I could have.
Yeah.
But I didn't.
But you didn't, yeah.
We always thought I had enough to do at home.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think most men at that time, and really long after that time, felt that their wives belonged at home.
I still think they do.
Basically, I think that you're probably right.
The country'd be a lot better off.
Yeah. Well, let's see, it's a matter of accepting less, but it costs so much to live nowadays. You have to give something up. You have to give something up.
But we didn't have all these things that a lot of them think they have to have.
That's true.
Now, like when we lived up where Jimmy Farland did, I don't know if he still does or not.
That's where Loretta is? No. Way up on the hill up there? Uh-huh.
I don't know if he still lives up there.
Yes, I think he does.
Well, anyhow, this man wanted to sell me a washing machine on installment. I said, no.
Don't want any installment payment. No. Yeah. See, my father believed in that. We never paid anything on time. And it wasn't until I got married that we found we had to. We didn't have to, but we did. Let's put it that way.
I did, after my husband died, buy a couple of stoves on installment. Well, not actually installment, but pay as I could. Mm-hmm. But I paid it. Mm-hmm. And I did buy my first vacuum cleaner that way, but I'd never buy another. That way. If I couldn't pay for it, I wouldn't buy it. Yeah. Yeah. No. Because sometimes that $10 a month left me pretty short. Yeah.
Yeah. Gee, you've done remarkably well, you know.
Oh, thank you.
No, you're welcome. Hey, I admire you very much because I don't know if it were myself whether I could have done the job that you did with as little to go on. You know?
I think you could have because you've got a lot of determination.
No, I don't know, but I've always had a little bit more money to spend. And that can be good and bad. It's not all good.
Yeah, right.
It's not all good.
Well, we owed the bank over here, this part of this house over here. We owed John Jeffers, the one on the hill. That is part of it. But when my husband went, and I could get things straightened out so I could go around and ask people, I went to the bank. I went to John Jeffers. They both said do what I could.
Good girl. Yeah. But then you had bankers in a small town who knew you, knew the kind of person you were.
Well, yes, I did.
And it was sort of a gentleman's agreement then, wasn't it? Did you have to sign papers for this? Yeah, I bet you didn't, maybe.
I know I didn't with John Jeffers.
Yeah.
And somebody was supposed to be our friend, went to John right away after the services and asked him if he would sell the house up there. It wasn't a real good house, but we lived there.
Mm-hmm.
And John said, you have to ask her.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow this man knew that John had the mortgage. So he said, well, you've got the mortgage. John said, yes, but
I don't know. That was decent of him.
So I rented it for a while, and I lost rent on it, and I couldn't run up there every night to see if they were still there.
Mm-hmm.
So I sold it.
Mm-hmm.
Then it put it in for this one.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a taxi at that time, and I asked the taxi driver if he'd still work for me for a while. And he said, well, he didn't really want to, but knowing that he'd known Wilbur for a long time,
mm-hmm.
he would drive for a little while till I could get straightened around. So he drove from, that was in August. But, in September was on it around because my husband died last day of August.
Mm.
Well, anyhow, he drove until the first of last February. He had said he did until the 1st of March. Anyway, he didn't.
Not quite a year.
No.
It was under a year.
Under a year.
Yeah.
So at that time, there weren't many cars in any place that could sell a car. Of course, it was just after the war.
Mm-hmm.
So there used to be a man come from Whitefield, I think it was, to the Colebrook house once a week. So I asked John if he would see him. I said, do you know if anybody wants to buy the car? And he said he didn't other than that one man, but he would see him for me. So we put the car up Saturday and Wednesday noon.
That's the way my mother sold our car, because she didn't drive either after the war.
So I put that right in toward my bills.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to pay Bill Newman once in a while $10. He said, don't hurry. He says, I never asked you for it.
Mm-hmm.
He said he had one person who paid him $1 at a time because they couldn't hold on to money till they got $10. Because I thought $10 was an awful little bit to be paid.
Yeah.
But I got it done.
You got it done. Good girl. Yeah. It's amazing. Now, as you said, speaking about the Depression really didn't hit you too hard.
Didn't hit me hard, dog. I didn't know the difference.
Didn't know the difference.
It had always been a depression.
Yeah. How about World War II when we got into things like rationing? Now, were you cooking for a living also at that time? You weren't? Okay. How did the rationing bit hit you? You weren't driving, so that was okay.
Well, of
you were
course,
driving a car.
That's
right. Yeah.
He could only go, supposed to be 25-mile round trip. Well, why could you hit a train or anything at 25 miles? So he had to go Concord and sign papers and so on and get permission to go to Whitefield or down to Gloucester. See, our main railroads came in Whitefield. No name. At first, it used to go.
They came into Whitefield for quite a while, didn't they? Because I remember that when we first moved up here, they were coming into Whitefield. Yeah. You okay, Alice? Let me know if you're not. We'll just cut it right off. Now, from there, tell me about your working life. After your husband died, you decided the mother's aid was not your thing. What did you do? What did you start doing work-wise?
I started working for Teresa Hicks first, and I worked for her for almost a year. Then,
were you cooking at this time?
No.
Just that was the only job you had.
Yeah, at that time. And then I left her and I went to the Colebrook house. I went to the Colebrook house as a chambermaid, and maybe all around handiwork. And when I was through in the daytime at the Colebrook house, I don't know, about a year ago, 10 months or a year, I went back to work for Teresa at night.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you say work for Teresa, did you work every night for her?
Not every night, but 2-3 nights, 3-4 nights a week.
Mm-hmm.
And then I stopped that kind of. From the Colebrook house, I went to different ones, like the Ono one.
Mm-hmm. You worked for Susie Keach, too?
No, I didn't go there until a little later.
Mm. Young sisters, did you say?
Young sisters. Yeah. And Maxine Covell.
Mm-hmm.
Mrs. Thompson.
Mm-hmm.
And Jerry
Belvin. Oh.
Geraldine Belvin. Oh. Geraldine, no, Carvey.
Carvey, yeah.
Well,
so these would be, say, maybe one day a week for these ladies?
Mm-hmm. One, two.
So it made a full week. You put them all together.
Oh, I had to.
Yeah.
Now
that was the full time. That was your work. Mm-hmm.
And I babysat some.
Mm-hmm.
Then, well, I did the restaurant. Then in '57, I went to work for the Thomas and Traders Bank as a clean child or whatever. Mm-hmm.
How about the Legion restaurant? When did you start working? Did you work part-time there? How did that go?
I worked 2 days a week there usually. Sometimes evenings, sometimes on Sunday.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And what did you do there?
Cleaned and washed dishes.
Mm-hmm. Did you do any cooking? No, not at the Legion. I guess the husband and wife were there at that time doing most of it. Probably.
Elder Kelsey was there cooking pastries. Carrie Brigham did short order cooking.
Carrie Brigham. Yeah, she was my first babysitter in Colebrook.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, and I remember my husband used to say to her, Grammy, he said, "You're my first divorcee that I've met in Colebrook." Oh, dear.
She was a good worker.
Yeah. She used to come over a couple of nights a week, and I'd go over to Esther's, and particularly on Thursday nights when my husband was playing bridge. And we'd watch Playhouse 90 in those days, which was, I thought, a very good television show. But anyway, yeah, she was quite a lady. Then you helped out families after. I know you helped me out. You came to us, and you also cleaned my husband's office.
Mm-hmm. I did that quite a while for him in Denver House.
Yes, you did. That's right. It was after 57, though, because he didn't go in for himself till, when did he go? 60. Yeah, so it would have been sometime in the 60s that you were doing that.
It must have been, because I wasn't doing that for him in 57.
Yeah.
57.
Yeah. But you were at the bank.
Yeah, I started there, I don't know, but that was 57 because I worked I worked almost 25 years there. It wasn't quite.
And then tell me about the families that you helped out. Were the Owenses the first ones? You went down when Claire's mother was there and helped, didn't you? Or did you?
No. Well, I did later, but I went to work for Leon and Sally.
And I think after you got through grappling with my family, you went to Marion's, didn't you? Because didn't she have her mother there?
Yeah.
I know if it hadn't been for you, I would never have gotten through summer school. I remember when I used to go trotting off at 6 o'clock in the morning, so you'd come in, and between you and Tom, but you did some wonderful things like making a bread, pound cake or something like that, so that you did much more than you really had to do, and we certainly appreciated it. I know I did.
Thank you. Well, that's what Tom said, because when he first asked me to work, you had asked me, I guess, and I said I couldn't.
Yeah.
Well, I did have to squeeze it in on Wednesday afternoon.
Yeah.
Well, then, up the street, Lisa came like this, Now he said, I want to talk to you.
Yeah.
I said, don't talk to me. Let me tell you. Well, he did. And I said, well, I'll let think about it. And, I guess inside, in the hallway. And he went upstairs. He said something about it another time. Now he said, let me talk to you. I said, oh, no. I'd had to come home that day and lie down.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, that was heavy work.
Yes.
I didn't realize it at the time.
Yeah. You don't realize it when you're in the middle of doing it.
So I said, well, don't talk to me about any work today.
Oh,
so
gosh,
then it was after that he put his hands out
Yeah.
in the street.
Yeah.
So I told him I'd try it for a week or two. Or was it about 12 years?
Yes. I certainly think you did a good job for us. And I think the only reason you stopped was when he took very sick before he died.
Yeah, it was.
And he couldn't, it was hard for us just to walk past his chair because he got the reaction from it. He said, no, I can't do it. You just have to do the best you can without any help. So we managed. And then, it's funny, he's been dead 20 years last Saturday.
Is that right?
That time goes by so fast. It's amazing. But anyway, now, then you helped, after me, I think you then went down to Marion Owens, didn't you?
I think so.
I think you did, yeah.
Then I went to Claire's.
Okay, after Marion?
I can't remember.
They were down around the same time, or
It
maybe
was,
you did a little bit for both of them. I'm not
It could
sure.
be, because I am mixed up on.
Yeah, the dates meld into each other, and you forget that stuff.
They were good, though.
Yeah.
I love Mrs. Morgan.
Yeah.
And then she went up to nursing home.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Then last I worked for Ruth Walker.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
4 years ago, I guess, because Ruth's been there almost 3.
Now you've retired. That's enough is enough. Yeah. Now you give a little time to Jessie once in a while. Desire to go out more, really desire to get in there and live a life,
She never had.
Yeah. And you can't make them at this age. But the very fact that she does go with you, I see the two of you once in a while walking on the street.
This week I've been up almost every night to the Legion to buy a cup of soup.
Good. Yeah. Good. And that's a good place to go because particularly if Oriette is around. Oriette's very kind to older people. Mm-hmm. And she would be good to her. Yeah.
Well, we went up Sunday not knowing that it was closed.
Yeah. Wasn't that horrendous?
Mm-hmm.
That thing? 4 hours of it? Just about.
So we were both, and it was so hot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We went up 5 o'clock, I think it was, but it was hot. And of course Jessie goes so slow.
Yeah. It's a shame because she was so vital at one time. I mean, she worked hard and she had a good job. And
she had a good job. Then she did do some things at home for mother.
Yes.
You can, well, like she said, she washed walls and woodwork and so on, but you can do that day after day.
Yeah.
And to me, that was good because it get my muscle out.
Yeah.
Now, since I've not worked at all.
Yeah, you're flabby. I have to give you some work to do. That's no problem. We could find that.
Oh, the trouble is, I've got that bursitis in my shoulder.
Yeah, it doesn't help.
No, it sure doesn't.
Yeah.
I've sat still more this winter than I ever did.
Oh, this was a devil of a winter. So many people sick, and seriously sick.
And mine was just my shoulder.
Now, a couple of things I want to add. Well, I got 3 or 4 more things before we conclude here. Tell me about the role of the church in your life. I know that you're a regular churchgoer and that you do a lot for the church as far as baking and so forth goes.
Well, I don't do as much as a lot of people.
But you go to service every Sunday, don't you?
I try to.
Yeah.
It's part of my life. Really.
It's part of your life. Have you always gone ever since you were a little girl?
No, I started when I was a little girl. But we lived. Well, when the first church I can remember was up in the old Panther schoolhouse. A man used to come up there in the summer. Mm-hmm. Can't remember things.
What schoolhouse did you say that was?
The Danforth schoolhouse.
Danforth?
It was at Happy Corner, but they tore it down.
Okay. This is in Pittsburgh. Yeah.
Yep, Happy Corner.
Yeah.
That's where I started school.
Yeah.
And then I went to two other schools.
Yeah.
At the head of Lake Francis.
Yeah.
There used to be a
Yeah.
school. I went there.
I know Eddie Hibbert has told me many times that he was born in a house on what is now Lake Francis.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's a man-made lake. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the church has had a central spot in your
Oh,
life,
yes,
hasn't
it's
it?
helped.
Yes, I think you're right. I think it does. It gives you something to hang on to.
If I hadn't had some faith,
Yeah.
I couldn't have done it.
Yeah, I think that's right. I've always felt the same way about the Catholic Church. Now, there was a time when the doors of the Catholic Church were always open. I noticed that they seem to be here. I don't believe they are in the cities anymore.
Well, ours certainly is.
Yeah.
And you know, this isn't going on there.
Yes, it is. So don't tell me if you don't.
Well, it's not concerning this thing, but it's another church.
Mm.
Now my grandson, I don't want that on there.
Let's see. Then I wanted to ask you too. You've done a little traveling over the years. Now, when your sister was in Texas, didn't you go down to see her? How many times did you go?
4 times.
4 times. Good girl. Did you fly each time? You didn't go Amtrak at all.
No.
You flew. Yeah.
Yep.
Where'd you fly from? Boston.
Manchester, first time.
Mm-hmm.
I think I flew all the time from Manchester.
Manchester. Right, a direct flight, or did you have to change?
I had to change one time in Washington, D.C. Of course, I had to change in Boston, too.
Mm-hmm.
I could look up
No, that's all right. Where in Texas did she live?
Corpus Christi.
Corpus Christi. All through the time she was there?
No, some of the time, Kansas City and...
But it was Texas, mainly.
Oh, yeah.
It was Texas.
Yeah, she was all Texas.
She liked it, yeah. She left here then fairly early.
She was very young.
Yeah, she loved it, yeah. And of course, when Aaron was in Florida now, you've been to Florida
I've been
several
to Florida
times.
3 times.
Yeah.
I went down in by auto, and back by plane.
Mm-hmm. Does he still have a home down there?
Mm-hmm.
He does, yeah. Have you been, see, this would have been a good winter to get out of here.
Well, yes and no. He had a hard winter this winter. First time I've seen him, he got home day before yesterday. About 12 years ago, he had to have a knee replaced.
I remember that, yeah.
And that won out. Well, he was trying to get along with it. I guess it was painful. He couldn't stand it.
Mm-hmm.
So he got a new knee. So
Mm-hmm.
he had to see his doctor the 23rd. So he came after that.
Mm-hmm.
So yesterday, he got from Stratford day before yesterday.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. This is now this month, June, you're talking about, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, but you have done some traveling around, which has been super. Yeah. And how about things like hobbies? I know you do a lot of knitting. You make a lot of mittens. Do you still?
I haven't this winter on campus for cider.
Yeah. But did you do things besides mittens? You did other things too,
yes,
didn't you? I know.
A year ago last winter, I did 119 pairs of mittens, 6 pairs of socks, and 6
Sweaters,
caps.
Baby stuff.
Well, little boys, little girls.
Yeah.
Not peak hats.
Toques or toques, yeah.
That's what we used to call them.
Yeah.
And I did two baby sets at least.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why this past winter I've had to sit and look at a book or something.
Oh, that's good though. Give you a chance to read. Come down to the library and do you have a card down there? You come down and take out a card, and you can do your thing. And you're just 2 steps away. Emmeline comes down all the time.
I go down once in a while with Ellen.
With Eleanor, but you should be taking something out for you. We could start easy, and work up from there, depending on what you liked. You find a couple of authors that you liked and go from there.
Usually, what I'm doing is looking over recipe books.
Oh, that's good too. That's good too. And how about, let's see. How about your friendships now? You have the ladies on the floor here, Eleanor and Madeline and Emmeline and Jessie. And who else do you... And the Killens.
Oh, yeah.
When I saw you Saturday now, do you go bird watching with them, or do you go to the church suppers mainly?
I go to church suppers. We were going last Saturday night to VFW. Well, it really wasn't the benefit of VFW. It was for that girl that wants to go around the world there, up with people.
Up with people. Is she from Stratford or is she from up here?
I don't know.
We've got a girl up here. Oh.
It's Martin. She was out here on the street. Well, anyhow, we went to that supper last Saturday night, and I felt sorry. Yeah. They had all this food, but it wasn't a big turnout.
Oh,
I felt so sorry because there's a lot of work in that.
Maria Rosei, I think, is going to do that for people. And, one of the Ruthia girls.
Oh?
I think so.
Oh, this is a Martin girl.
A Martin girl from Stratford? Must be from Stratford.
I think so.
Yeah.
With what little talk I could hear between different ones the other side of the table. That's what it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All that work and all that food.
Yeah. Could they have sold some of? Did they sell some of the food afterwards?
I don't know. We didn't stay that long.
Yeah.
Left, but there was very few people.
Oh, that's too bad.
And a week ago, Friday, yeah, it must have been on Friday. This girl was up the street in front of Dixon's, and I had made cinnamon rolls. I know I was going to take some over to Mr. and Mrs. Dodger.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't taken them. Mm-hmm. But I had made a half a batch, but still more than I thought they'd need.
Yeah.
Not need, but
enjoy.
Mm-hmm. So I thought, well, there's a food sale up here, I'll go give it to them. Mm-hmm. So I got up there, and here were these two long tables full of food. I thought, well, I don't need any more to get rid of.
Yeah.
I didn't. Yeah. But that's what I do sometimes. Just cook up something and go give it.
And go give it. Viola does that too. Bring something out of them. Some to the.
And she said, "Don't you bring anything back."
Yeah. Oh yeah. But she'll make things like she makes lovely apple pies. And Joan, would you like? I said, no, don't give it to me because if you do, I'll eat it, and I don't want to eat that stuff for a while. Because she winds up giving it to me. I wind up eating it. So, anybody else that? Getting back to the Kilns for a minute. Do you bird watch with him? Because he's so knowledgeable.
Yes, when we come back from Stratford, we usually go on the Vermont side, and we see birds. We see deer.
Moose, probably.
Mm-hmm. And one time we saw a bear.
Mm-hmm.
And he always hears birds, because I do once in a while see a different one in the sky, but I haven't got.
He knows the chirp.
Chirp.
Yeah. He's very good. I think that's a lovely side. I always use the Vermont side whenever I can.
It's pretty.
It's much prettier. And when I walk over there, I usually go from the old Leamington Town Hall up to the log house and back. And you get the change of seasons. You see all of the wildlife, the flowers and things and the birds. Yeah.
Well, I've often wondered if it's because I sort of grew up in the woods, why I like it.
Yeah.
I wasn't actually in the woods, but it was country.
Yeah. And it's very, very pretty over there.
I think.
I know we were up at Mark's camp last weekend. It's just a beautiful spot. He's got a pond out in front. And there I had given him for camp Tom's old aluminum canoe, and they were out in the canoe with the kids. I thought, gee, this is good. Too bad Tom isn't around to see this.
See, I used to live up there.
Did you? All the way up on the hill?
Over beyond the apron.
That's where their place is.
The first place beyond the apron.
First place beyond the apron. Well, their road goes in. That's the first road beyond the apron. You go into the left. And that's what we'll have to take a ride up sometime. I bet it might be the same. I
think the house has fallen down where I live. Oh, we went up. See, Dad used to work for different families.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we moved this. One of the kids, one of the grandkids said, "You must have moved a lot, Granny."
Yeah.
Just because they've stayed one place.
That's right.
We went up there while I was 13, so it must have been 1924.
Mm-hmm.
We stayed up there one winter. We went up in November, and we stayed there till the next September.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Then you went to school Piper Hill. That was a ways away.
But we lived at Piper Hill.
On Piper Hill. Okay.
But we still had to come down. Well, we came through different ways, because when there was a lot of snow, we couldn't come across the fields. We had to come down around the road and then go back up.
Yeah. And you did this with a team of horses, or with one horse?
No, we had one horse.
One horse.
Otherwise, if it wasn't too bad, we walked, because we'd go across the field. I don't know who.
I just want to hop back a minute, because I don't think I had it on tape when we talked about this ancestor of your husband's, this Aaron Covell. When I checked the stone in the cemetery yesterday, it said died November 28th, 1862. So the name has come down. Now, were there other Aaron Covells too besides your son and this man?
Yeah, my husband, they lost 5 children, I think. Out of 5, he was the only one living. That is my husband. But he had a brother. I don't think it's at the cemetery called.
Who was an Aaron?
Yeah.
It's a nice name. It's different, but it's coming back into use now, I notice.
I used to think, why did they ever name anybody Aaron?
Yeah.
But my husband named my son.
Aaron.
Aaron Wilson. Sounded good to me.
Yeah.
But for a long time, after he was born, nobody had that name.
Yeah,
but
so
now
he was born.
Several.
Yeah, it's coming back. It's funny how it goes in circles, isn't it?
Yeah.
And,
now, like Alice, nobody. And when I was in school, there was 2 and 3 always.
Yes.
I seem to be the only one about now.
Yeah. It's unusual, but it's true that's the way it's happening. Now, this Aaron Cole, we're getting back to him for a minute, that's up there in the cemetery, he died at 23 years, 20 days. So he was a young man. 1862, well, he could have been in the war, in the Civil War. Yeah, probably. So he was probably an ancestor.
I would say so, because they were either. I used to have some literature, that is, I don't know what you call literature, but clippings from the paper that my mother-in-law evidently had saved. They must have got
disintegrated, yeah. So I was going to say, if you had anything like that now, yeah. All right. We could copy them, and I could give you back the originals.
But I think the others must have gotten thrown out.
Or they might have just gone the way of all flesh by themselves. You know, you can't always tell about that.
All crumbled up. But these were some my mother-in-law had saved.
Oh, yeah, absolutely right. But there were a lot of pros and cons about that, and it got watered down a little bit towards the end too, I think. So that's why I think for right now, these youngsters are better off where they are.
Well, there aren't any. What? 3
Very
farms?
few working farms.
3 farms, I think.
Well, you get somebody like Bobby Keyser, who's going to school to be a math teacher. Now, his family had a big farm. Yeah.
Well, in a way, I don't blame them, because it is hard work, but it's still a lot of satisfaction.
Yes, as long as they can make a living at it. You know. Now, the Lyons, Eleanor and her husband are lucky because their boy is gone with them. Now, the younger boy, apparently, no way is he interested.
He's a nice guy.
Yeah, he is. I like Brent. They're all nice kids.
Yes,
Eldonna.
they are. Yeah. And even the way that Steffi and Bruce are bringing theirs up, you can see such a difference.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
Stephen, I guess, is kind of lively.
I don't know that she has 4, doesn't she? And she teaches.
She teaches at the camp.
Yeah.
I think 20-some odd years. And
she's been at it a while. No, she's with those 4 kids. That's a big order. It's a big order.
So well behaved.
Yeah. So there's your example of the working mother who's been able to do the right thing somehow. You know. Of course, I suppose when they get home from school, maybe Dad is around.
I would expect.
See, so this is not. They haven't been brought up necessarily by sitters.
That's the one thing that bothered me most when I was working, when Alan would come home from school, nobody home.
Yeah.
And I didn't know it till I guess he was through school. Anyhow, they had written this essay or whatever on what they did when they got home. And it made me feel good.
Yeah.
He says, nobody's home, not even a cat.
Yeah. But he must have realized, too, that the only way that you could make ends meet...
Oh, well, today he would say...
He realizes it now.
Yeah. I've got a letter over there with some cash. I wouldn't.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you'd like to say about the town or your thoughts about the town? I've heard people say, one man in particular, that in a few years' time you would see very few stores on Main Street, that this town would just go by the boards. And when I talked to Donald Dixon, and I realized that he has got nobody to buy that place so far. Well, I think he had a chance with Brooks, the chain, but they backed out. And then I think he's anxious to retire himself. He's 65. Why not? He'll have to sell his stock, probably to Rite Aid, I suppose.
And then what's going in there?
That's it.
Like across the street, that's an undesirable place. Like What are they going to put in there that people in Colebrook?
I don't know. Who can make a living over there? That's it.
Nobody had. I don't think she did.
No. I know when they talk about it, they had this summit out at the Balsams last weekend, and the weekend before, and they, how to do it, what do we need, and so on and so forth. We've got to have businesses here. If we don't have that, and we don't have decent transportation in and out,
that's what we need the most.
The transportation. We need a bus again. We need.
Now, of course, this was during wartime, but there were five taxis here.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone was busy.
Mm-hmm. I believe it. Yeah.
Now there isn't even. If you don't have a car, you can't get
out.
I've said it's a great place to live if you want to stay here.
Mm-hmm.
But if you get out, you can't get back. And you have a hard job getting out.
That's right. Is there anything else that you'd like to add to this, Alice? Because I don't want to hold you too long.
Why not?
No. What do you think the future of the town will be?
I think it's going to be a ghost town.
Yeah, it's an awful thought, isn't it?
It is, because it used to be a pretty...
Yes.
Actually, the metropolis of the northern...
Yeah.
But, there again,
times change and transportation, It's too bad they ever took the railroads away.
It is. But they're coming back in other places.
Yeah. Well, we've tried to make stabs at it, haven't we? In this general area, and nothing has stayed with us.
I think with my little
thought on that?
Yeah. Communication, automation, transformation is ruining the nation.
Hey, is that your idea?
Mm-hmm.
It's good. Yeah.
Communication, automation, and transportation ruining the nation.
Yeah.
Well, it has here.
Yeah.
Now, Colebrook used to be, even back when, not long.
Yeah.
Now, when you came, it was a lot prettier than it is
56,
now.
yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's not pretty. To me, it's just a throughway.
Yeah.
And I feel sorry for it.
Something like Lisbon. Lisbon degenerated far worse and far faster, I think. Because being so close to Littleton, it wasn't that important. You could get to Littleton in 10 miles traveling.
What can you do in Littleton anymore? There are no shops.
Well, you've got decent shops. You've got a nice library. You've got the theater. You've got a wonderful bookstore. You've got, there's, I think, because see, they're on the confluence of 93 and 91, and it's a good location. So you can get back and forth.
Clothing shops have gone out, haven't they?
I think they've got a couple of them there. I haven't shopped down there for clothes. But they've got some other, they've got some other things that are, that are good. But it's a tough time, and it's a tough time to try and make a little town grow. And you think, well, if you can hang on for just a little while longer, maybe. But I do think that this transportation bit, you've got to have reasonable transportation. In the age where the gas prices go up and this goes up. Mm-hmm. I think that's all I have to ask you that I can think of. We talked about this Aaron Covell that's up in the cemetery, and parents, siblings.
No, I have no idea who he was, unless he was one of the original. Because there's either 5 or 7.
Mm-hmm.
Sometime I had.
Well, now listen, I tell you what, I'm going to put this on tape. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm going to end this now, and I'm going to play it back. And if it looks like we need more information in any area, I'll be back. Okay?